Get started now. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to yet another virtual meeting of the Michigan Women's Commission. My name is Muna Jundi, and I am chairwoman of the presenters today. So I'm not going to take any time so we can get to the important stuff. The first thing on today's agenda, of course, is to do the roll call. So I am going to start just to make sure that we have quorum. Daniel Atkinson. I guess I should probably say if you can unmute yourself so I can know that you're here. Okay, so Commissioner Atkinson is not here. Commissioner Joanne Chavez.
Joanne was excused.
Okay, I must have missed that, sorry. Commissioner Charity Dean. Commissioner Whitney Gravel. Okay, we're off to a great start. Commissioner Kathy Andrian.
Present. Couldn't get off mute.
I was going to say, I see your face. So Commissioner Deidre Lambert-Bounds, Commissioner Sabala Mandava, Commissioner Alicia Manili.
Here.
Commissioner Faye Nelson. Commissioner Vivian Picard.
Here.
Commissioner Misty Rice.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly Saunders.
Here.
Commissioner Meg Wheeler-Derer.
Present.
And Commissioner Dr. Geneva Williams.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is the discussion around the Tri-Share Childcare Pilot Program. And that is yours, Cheryl.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. My Tri-Share Childcare, excited to let you know that we, with the Women's Commission, we announced our awardees in mid-March, and they are with us today. So you're gonna get to hear a bit from each of them. And as well as Marcus Keish, who's the Legislative Director for Representative Van Workum, and Alexa Kramer, who's with the Grand Rapids Chamber. The two of them did most of the legwork and the idea behind this program, and they will be talking about how the Tri-Share idea came to be. And like I said, we announced the 3 awardees in mid-March, and we have kicked off the pilot. We've had 2 meetings with the hubs. So we are underway, and you'll hear from each of the hubs too. And I will send it over now to Marcus and Alexa. Thanks for
Thank you, Cheryl. Really appreciate the opportunity, and nice to see some familiar faces as well. For those who don't know me and we haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Alexa Kramer, the Director of Government. I always joke that, well, I handle 2 big areas within the chamber: education and workforce development, and tax and regulatory affairs. And I always joke that while I enjoy tax policy, I would say that I'm passionate about education and workforce development. And so really thankful and feel it as a privilege to do this work on behalf of the West Michigan business community. I wanted to give kind of a level set of how the coalition, the statewide coalition, came to be that we brought together back in 2019. And then I'll turn it over to Marcus to kind of talk about the intent and some specifics of the actual pilot program that we developed within the coalition too. So way back, it seems like forever, summer of 2019, after a number of kind of going through and getting my footing within the childcare work that we've always done within the Grand Rapids Chamber, and kind of always approached it as both early education and workforce development. Approached my boss wanting to pull together the statewide coalition on childcare, just because in my conversations, it was businesses weren't really engaging as much as I would have liked them to, and leaning into making this more of a business issue and being able to lend their voice and support to tackle this really. With our statewide coalition with all of our usual, quote unquote, usual suspects, but then also bring in the business voice and really elevate the business voice in this conversation too. And so boss looked at me like I had, but said, go ahead and go for it. So the coalition started back in the summer of 2019. From then, and with help from folks like Marcus, building out the coalition to represent business voices from all over Michigan, our kind of the traditional children advocacy groups, some really smart folks sitting at that table, and then also legislators, key state leaders, and some research groups as well, all coming together. And the idea was, this is a really complex issue area. Let's all put our collective voice around really one big thing at a time that we think we could really move the needle on. And so within the coalition that we developed, the Tri-Share pilot program really, I would say, quickly rose to the top of the list as something that we tackle as a coalition. And with that, turn over to Marcus to kind of give a little bit more details, and then we're around for Q&A after.
Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Cheryl and the commission, for allowing us to be here to present to you and kind of give a background of why we developed what we did, as well as answer questions following that. Like introduced, my name is Marcus Keach. I'm the Legislative Director for Representative Greg Van Workum. And as Alexa segued into that, we have worked great with the Grand Rapids Chamber and Alexa and the state pilot program together, and we're excited to see where we're at right now with the 3 locations selected and potential future expansion. To really describe where we were and how this came about, it really starts with the representative and making the decision that a lot of people around the state have to make at their kitchen table, and that's, should one of the spouses go back to work, or should one of them with children because of the cost of childcare? As the representative and as I traveled around the district, we've heard from businesses who identified that this was a problem for tapping into employment opportunities for residents. And so we knew that they wanted to contribute somehow to childcare, but they just didn't know how they could. They potentially looked at opening their own childcare centers within their businesses, and based off the liabilities as well as the cost, it just wasn't feasible for them to do that. And so we knew that there was an untapped potential with these employers, that they could contribute a portion of those costs. They just needed the avenue to do that. And so we were able to look at that want and that need for employers. We knew that the families wanted to get back to work and climb up the economic ladder opportunity, as well as use state resources to really find that Tri-Share, as in the name, tap into affordable childcare and accessibility. So that's really where it stems from. The representative, like I said, he was at that table himself, so he really understood those difficult decisions that people around the state are making. And so when Alexa and the Grand Rapids Chamber came to us with the statewide coalition, we knew that this was a significant objective that we wanted to achieve. And with the great partners we had from throughout the state and from the governor's office and the chambers and business employers, we were able to work on this program, get this program where we're at today, and provide the funding for the $1 million to get the 3 hubs. And I would like to also note that the representative does also serve as chair of General Government Subcommittee. We did pass our subcommittee budget yesterday with our intent, and we did include the $2.2 million funding request and increase. So we're looking at putting more money into this and watching this expand and grow and have additional hubs come online and really let this be the leader in not just our state access funding and accessibility for residents from Michigan as well as from the other states of our country. So we can take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Does any? No. Okay. So at least not yet. We're not done with the Tri-Share conversation. So next we have the Facilitator Hubs. Cheryl, are you doing those introductions?
Sure. I think first up on the agenda is Dr. Erica Taylor, who is with Saginaw ISD. And I'll just send it over to Dr. Taylor and let her explain your area that the pilot is covering, and a little bit about Saginaw ISD and your community.
So I would like to thank you all first for this opportunity to speak to you today about the importance and benefit of the Tri-Share pilot to our region. We are excited to participate in this pilot that will undoubtedly leaders and employees in our community and hopefully set the stage for replication in the future. And so I serve as the Executive Director of Early Childhood for the Saginaw ISD. My partner who is also on this call is Rich Van Tol, and he serves as the Director of the Great Start Collaborative at the Bay Area ISD. And so as the financial fiduciary of this project, the Saginaw ISD provides a variety of services to 12 local school districts, as well as 5 public school academies. Those services are in the areas of business finance, career technical education, early childhood, human resources, instruction, special education, and suburban and rural area levels, ethnicities, and races. And so we are working on behalf of the Great Lakes Bay region with this project. And so the Great Lakes Bay region is made up of the following counties, which include Aranac, Bay, Clare, Gladwin, Gratiot, Isabella, Midland, and Saginaw. And within the Great Lakes Bay region, we also have the Great Lakes Bay Early Business Advisory for Early Childhood, which connects regional businesses and human resource departments to their local early childhood systems. So this is a benefit because it supports employers and employee truancy and absenteeism. So the TriShare pilot will assist our region in continuing to attract and retain talent by better supporting companies and their employees. So, and we currently have 4 employers who have given us their full support, as well as at least 6 others who have expressed interest in this pilot. And so we also see this as an opportunity to provide some support to our asset limited, income constrained, and employed families also. So, and we know that these families struggle as wages fail to keep pace with the cost of a variety of household essential development. And so the benefits for the employer include in assisting employees with more affordable childcare costs, removing the lack of employment, developing and strengthening the talent pipeline, helping with the recruitment and retention of employees, and the benefits for the employee by reducing out-of-pocket childcare costs, addressing employee challenges in relation to childcare, alleviating the burden, improving the work-life family affordable childcare solutions, and removing one barrier of seeking employment. Or benefits for childcare providers include increasing the availability of options in terms of available childcare centers and our programs, providing stability in the wages that are paid to childcare workers, reinforcing the value of and need for quality childcare staff, and then inspiring talented teachers to pursue careers, early education and childcare, where we continue and ongoing vacancies. And finally, in terms of our community and economic development, we see benefits such as making quality childcare available and accessible to the families who need it most, improving academic performance by providing childcare experience, which we know leads to higher lifetime earnings, improved job stability and access to quality child health overall. Thank you all for allowing me to just tell a little bit about our region and our area. Are there any questions?
The mission of the Great Start Collaborative of Traverse Bay and 5 to 1 is to make our region a great place to live, work, and raise a child by ensuring that a strong system of resources is available to all families and the most vulnerable children receive the supports they need to succeed. The collaborative's commitment to early childhood is part of a larger view of community and prosperity centered around creating and strengthening a family-friendly infrastructure. The collaborative operates in 5 strategic areas of shared work, strengthening families, promoting parent voice and ensuring parents are prepared and able to participate at all levels of decision-making, communications and community engagement, identifying needs and gaps, and sharing data across disciplines and sectors, and funding. 5 to 1 is an innovative project of the Great Start Collaborative of Traverse Bay that brings together families and community partners to ensure that all children reach their highest potential. They have 3 project goals. All children are healthy, thriving, and developmentally ready for success in school and life. All families have access to affordable, high-quality early care and learning, and all families are strong and supported, reducing the incidence of child abuse and neglect. These goals are achieved through local and regional partnerships that create opportunities for families and caregivers to participate in activities and programs that help them explore, connect with, and learn about early childhood resources in our region. These three organizations, United Way of Northwest Michigan, Great Start Collaborative of Traverse Bay, and 5 to 1, working together are perfectly positioned to bring a facilitator hub to our region to pilot this TriShare childcare program. When asked why TriShare is important to our community, one participating employer writes, "There is finally a solution being put in place to address the issues we've seen for years now with affordability and availability of quality childcare providers." She goes on to say, "In a competitive hiring market, this program has the potential to bring more parents into the workforce by providing an affordable solution." Another employer writes, "As we strive to recruit top talent in our area, it's very important to have infrastructure that supports families with young children. Childcare challenges include not only the cost, but finding excellent, reliable care. When options are limited for childcare, our talent diversity also becomes limited." So we are thrilled and looking forward to launching this project with our business partners and learning more about how to create sustainable investments in early childhood.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's, I'm excited to see that, this program is in different geographic areas of the state, and, urban, suburban, rural. I feel like it'll be exactly that, a pilot. I see that Deidre, Commissioner Lambert-Bounds has a question. Go ahead.
I do. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation and all the data and information. I have two questions, and I'm not quite sure who to direct them to, so I saved them until the end. So feel free to jump in. But my questions are, the first is, how are the services and the dollars disseminated through the pilot to families, and how do employers get involved in that? And my second question is, I know this is still in pilot stage, but what are the dollars needed to sustain something like this over the long haul, particularly post-pandemic, when women are going back to work and they need childcare? How could we sustain this once it goes out of pilot stage?
So I'll take a shot at the first question. Right now, we are still meeting and finalizing some of those details, but my understanding, and if I'm off base a little, maybe Cheryl can jump in, but my understanding is that the funds will flow from the employer, who will likely take a portion out of the employee's check, and those monies would come to us, and then we would issue payment to the child care provider. Cheryl, did I explain that correctly?
That's correct.
And each would pay a third of the cost.
And then, and then the state pays the hubs monthly as well,
right,
for the state's third of the cost.
And then
That's the way that our hub envisions that as well.
And I can try to talk about the sustainability piece too. The most direct answer is, I don't think that we know yet. I mean, this is the first of its kind, right? So we don't know, and we don't even have another similar program in another state to look at. So I think that the most direct answer is we simply don't know what this looks like. to be sustainable long-term from a financial perspective. That's why it was really important for us to start as a pilot. That's why it was really important for us to have the 3 different regions. And that's why it's also really important for us, and I'm speaking on behalf of the coalition at this point, to have an evaluation of this program. And so we are looking at an independent deep dive evaluation of the program. That way that we're able to really collect and analyze the data in order to inform our efforts going forward. That way we're able to figure out what doesn't work, right? We know that we're gonna run into some issues. We know our hubs will, we know we'll find some really great information out from providers and employers too on how to better this program, and hope to use the data that we collect to inform our efforts. So Deidre, I wish I had a better answer for you, but the direct is we're not really sure at this stage. Marcus, I'm not sure if you had any other points on that. I will just add to, I saw a Q&A come forward on how many communities applied to be pilot sites, and I believe we were at 15 for 3. So lots of demand out there.
Thank you. Thank you all for answering.
And I'll chime in too, just a little bit. And so that was kind of where, when we identified 3 pilot regions, when we designed this program, we understand that the costs are going to be different depending on rural, suburban, or urban as well. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to test this pilot in all those regions. As we can see with our 3 hubs that are selected, they really represent the different areas of our state. And we do have the support with the legislature through the budget that we just passed in the subcommittee yesterday, as well as the members of the legislature that are on that coalition that's statewide, to do what we need to do to make sure this program we can figure out what works and what doesn't. We can address that going forward, and we can make sure that this is a program that we can sustain full-time and long-term.
And I can jump in just to say that there has been interest from private funders to expand the pilot even more right now. So we're in some talks with some private funders, so stay tuned on that as well.
Thanks, Cheryl. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, I see Dr. Geneva.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I congratulate everyone. I think this is an extraordinary pilot, and it seems as though we've got the right partners. Of course, you know, whenever I believe, whenever United Way is in the mix, it's always a good thing. And so I'm very much interested in the results and how you're moving forward, and I have high anticipation and expectations. So thank you for your leadership in stepping up in this pilot. I had chatted briefly with Cheryl about my disappointment that Detroit or the Southeastern Michigan region was not selected as a hub. And I recognize that we're in a pilot and there's only so much money to go around. I get it. I get that. My question is, when do we anticipate either results coming out for possible expansion or the possibility of other funders stepping in so that we might also have a hub in the Detroit Southeastern Michigan region? Thank you.
I think I can address that, and I welcome anyone jumping in. Thank you, Dr. Geneva. The pilot is a year-long pilot, so it launched technically on April 15th and will go until April 15th of 2022. We'll be evaluating the program monthly. So the Facilitator Hubs have a data that they'll be getting to us monthly. So we'll be looking at the program monthly as we go along. And then I would say I'm hopeful by the end of April, so give us a couple of weeks, maybe into May of next year, we'll have a full report, not only from an internal evaluation, but also from the external evaluation that Alexa mentioned, that the coalition in Grand Rapids in West Michigan is providing. So that's great. And then as far as the adding a couple of, so the private funder that we're talking with is interested in a hub, a region in Southeast Michigan. I would expect that we'll know something and maybe be able to, I'm going to knock on wood as I say this, launch one more or two pilots in Southeast Michigan, May, June. That would be the timing if it all works out. And again, I'm knocking on wood because I'm superstitious like that. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And thank you for your leadership in trying to extend this very important pilot. Appreciate it.
And Dr. Geneva, I would add as well from the coalition perspective, after we knew that we received the funding, I think Marcus and I did a lot of legwork to make the pilot known. So there was a lot of communication out. And so we were really intentional. We knew that a really great pilot started with a really competitive applicant pool, right? And so we wanted to spread the word as much as we can. And we do have the Detroit Regional Chamber at the table at the coalition. I also am good friends with Amanda Klein at the United Way down there as well, and had conversations with them too. That's something that the coalition, I think, is going to continue as we expand. We wanted to have those conversations with folks all across Michigan, and at this stage, it might have not worked for certain communities, but we wanted to at least let everyone know. And then as we expand, I'm hoping that I'll be able to tap coalition members to be able to continue to get the word out. So the communication, the outreach will be ongoing from a coalition perspective too.
Great. I see.
Hi, this is Vivian Picard. I have another quick question just tied into what Dr. Geneva just indicated. Are you able to even indicate what other cities were considered, and whether like Detroit and Flint and those areas were even considered in the initial funding? Are you able to even indicate that?
I can let you know that we had 15 applicants from across the state to be facilitator hubs. We had excellent applications from a couple from Southeast Michigan, a few directly from the city of Detroit, and a couple like downriver or outside of in Wayne County. We did have one from Genesee County. We had a proposal from Battle Creek. So they really represent, I think the UP was really the only region of the state that wasn't represented in this application pool. And I got to tell you, the majority of the applicants, the proposals were excellent. And we had we created or put together a joint evaluation committee who independently evaluated the proposals. And the committee was made up of subject matter experts from the Michigan Department of Education, the Licensing and Regulation, LARA in Michigan, and Leo. And so this committee scored, they all had the same scoring sheets, obviously scored the proposals, and many of the proposals were very close. And the three awardees were the top scoring proposals. But there are others that are very good. If we had the money to fund all 15, I honestly think that all of their proposals were worthy to be funded. So, I mean, that's exciting news. And let's hope we can, get some more funding. And it's exciting to hear that from Marcus that is the budget recommendation for $2.2 million to increase the pilot is going forward. And stay tuned on the private funding.
Okay, secondly, Cheryl, were those the organizations that did not receive funding, was there any follow-up in terms of advising them as to why and how they might improve going forward?
If they reached out to me, and a couple of them did individually, I did talk to them about their proposals and, just let them know where they could be a little stronger in their proposals. So yes, if they did indeed reach out to me, and they were all communicated with. after the Joint Evaluation Committee's decision.
We have a question from the audience for the private funded centers. I think this is to you, Cheryl.
Mhm.
That would like to be a hub. Process be the same
I'm sorry, say that again?
for
I'm
the
looking-
private funded, right? So you were talking about now getting private funding for some of the Southeast Michigan. Would those be operating the same as the ones that are funded through this program?
Yes, I would envision that we would just loop them right into our monthly hub meetings that we'd have to catch them up, get them up to speed, but then work with them as we're already starting to work with the 3 existing facilitator hubs.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
yeah, I just happened, thank you. I just happened to see in the chat that Commissioner Nelson indicated that there were probably foundations that would be interested in something like this. And as you know, she's one of the big wigs in the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. We're so proud of her and her leadership there, as always. And so I just want to, again, encourage us to really be very intentional about, because we know that, of course, they're excellent providers as in the Detroit Southeastern area, and who would be willing and can step up to do this. And of course, there's plenty of need. So I would just want the Michigan, our commission to be representative in that way to the extent possible. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so I wanted to thank Marcus and Alexa. Thank you for coming and explaining that background. And of course, for those of you that are heading the pilot programs, Dr. Taylor, Jen Harris, and Jeanette Hoyer, thank you so much for coming and spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to hearing, I mean, obviously, if those reports are coming in monthly, it's going to be, I think, interesting for us to watch and hopeful to be able to say, yeah, this is working really well. So look forward to that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Feel free to stay on or hop off, whatever you'd like to do. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Okay, so next on our agenda, I was going to move to the Michigan's childcare strategy and the fiscal year 22 budget recommendations. Michelle Richard, policy advisor for the Executive Office of the Governor, is here to present to us. Hi, Michelle, I see that you've been waiting. Welcome.
Hello, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, everyone. I did bring a handful of slides with me today, and while I get them up, I wanted to start with just some reflective gratitude for this conversation. So I've spent my entire career working on issues for small kids, especially childcare. But today we have leaders from the Women's Commission, from the Grand Rapids Chamber, Talent 2025, Goodwill, United Way, Workforce Development, ISDs, people who care deeply about children, but who haven't always put childcare at the front of their agenda. And I think that is just a tremendous opportunity for our state. The governor is certainly among the leaders who see the challenges that our working families are facing, particularly working women, and the fact that childcare can just be an amazing opportunity for our state. So thank you so much for all of your leadership. It is such an honor to work with Cheryl and Shannon all of the time and to have them channel the leadership of all of the commissioners here. I also wanted to take a moment. I know we have a public element to our audience to just thank any of our early educators who are on the line, the folks who are actually spending their days with little people. This is my baby Jack, right? My life is powered as a professional by early educators, and my job as a public servant is to make their opportunities for all children better. So thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone. Today, we really started by digging into some of the innovative practices around how we can support childcare access for more families. And as we think about this strategy at a state level, whether we are working with the Women's Commission or our partners at the Department of Education or Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, our North Star goal is that every single family in Michigan has access to quality, affordable care, regardless of how old that baby is, 12 months old or 12 years old, regardless of where they live, how much money they make, the family's race, ethnicity. Every family in Michigan deserves to have access, so that when Marcus talked about the kitchen table conversation that happens, that families can make the choice that is right and best for them. And that priority really carries forward in the governor's work and support for programs like TriShare, but also for the budget proposal that the governor put forth back in February. Talking about budgets right now is always complicated because there's so many financial opportunities. This was the proposal that the governor put forth back in February. I don't know about you, but I've been looking at budgets for childcare investments for many years, and you usually have to dig into page 674 and you find this little bitty bit about childcare. And this year, it led the story in the Free Press and many other publications across the state, which I think is a sign that conversations like this are really penetrating our investments in value. So the governor really put forth 3 big priorities in her proposal to spend $370 million in childcare. First, the first priority was to make care more affordable for families. We have a child care subsidy program in Michigan that serves a small fraction of families who need support finding affordable child care. So the governor proposed on a temporary basis, because so many of these dollars are federal one-time dollars, increasing income eligibility significantly so that a family of 4 making just over $50,000 would be eligible for child care support. That would mean 150,000 more families in Michigan having access to the child care subsidy program, which would make care low or no cost for them and their family. We also proposed pausing parent copays. A really key part of our child care subsidy program is that parents contribute a portion of the cost to child care. It could be a really modest amount for some families, $10 or $15 a month. Upwards to a couple of $100s for families. It increases as families' income increases. We know family budgets right now are stretched to the max. So we proposed pausing those copays. And instead of families making those contributions, the state would take on those expenses so that our child care providers are made whole. The governor's second priority was to make sure our child care providers can stay open. We've invested heavily as a state in collaboration with the legislature to make sure our child care providers could keep their doors open, even when their balance sheets told them it wasn't profitable. We proposed continuing to invest in economic stimulus so that providers who are way under enrolled, maybe serving a few children when they typically serve 20, 50, 100 children at a time, that it could make financial sense to stay open. We owe some temporary changes to how we pay our child care subsidy to make them even more provider friendly so that there was a higher incentive for providers to serve our highest need families. Finally, the governor continued to prioritize innovation, even as we think about how to get back on our feet during this pandemic. We want to start testing the waters. We knew our childcare system didn't work for families and it didn't work for providers before the pandemic. Going back to normal is no good when it comes to childcare. So innovating with investments like TriShare or a program called the Childcare Innovation Fund, which has been graciously seeded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and is a partnership with the Early Childhood Investment Corporation. The governor proposed matching that private investment with public dollars so that we could learn faster. TriShare is an amazing innovation. It took a long time to get from conception to communities. And so how do we make that innovation process faster? Now, $370 million is an amazing investment, but it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to childcare investment, which is just stunning. The American Rescue Plan included $1.1 billion for childcare specifically. These are funds that cannot be used for other purposes. They are explicitly required by Congress to go to childcare. The governor has articulated some values related to American Rescue Plan dollars that are much broader than childcare. But when we start thinking about what are the types of investments we may make around an American Rescue Plan dollars, we think about, right, how do we help make sure that care remains available, affordable, and high quality? How do we continue to stabilize childcare businesses? And how do we think thoughtfully about communities where there wasn't childcare in that community before the pandemic, and there isn't going to magically be childcare after the pandemic? How do we help that market work better for families? And then we're really being thoughtful about our workforce. How can we make sure that going to be a childcare professional is respected, that it's supported, that it makes financial sense for people who are trying to take the next step in their career? The governor has not put forth an executive recommendation style proposal around the American Rescue Plan.
You finished?
So I know there are starting to be more conversations in Lansing about the details, and we'll certainly be having more around tables like this soon. I want to amplify, and I know Cheryl and Shannon have been meeting with many of you on a one-to-one basis, is how important it is for partners like you, and whether it's the public who's on the line today or the commissioners, for them to hear from you about the work you're doing and why you see childcare as a real critical part of our economic recovery. Whether that's reaching out by email, social media, working with the press to amplify the need for care. When I meet with every single audience, whether it's parents, childcare providers, I share these same core talking points. When you reach out to our lawmakers, pushing them to urgently pass funding for childcare, I'm delighted that we're making small progress on that this week. I think that's a step in the right direction. We have more conversations ahead to make sure that we have policy and investments that work for families and for our small business owners. But having your voice as a part of that discussion couldn't be more valuable at this time. And I think the number one thing is saying people are hanging on by their fingernails. Parents are at their wits' end. Childcare providers have balance sheets where it just doesn't make sense to continue operations, and continuing to say we need to act now as a state is something our providers are calling me every single day, reminding me that they need help. And so I'm passing that call to action on to all of you. I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to stop this sharing. I'm happy to turn it back on if that would be valuable, but I would love to see your faces if you have questions or comments, additions to this critical work. We'd love to continue collaborating with the Women's Commission shoulder to shoulder to make a big impact in our state.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioner Lambert-Bounds, I see that you asked a question. I assume you'd like to articulate it.
Sure, absolutely. I wondered about the definition of child care programs, and if that, I mean, obviously I'm assuming daycares, but does that also include tutoring or other types of after-school programs for older children? Would that include music classes or courses, those kinds of things?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. It's something we talk a lot about is if you're a parent, if your baby's 12 months old or your baby's 12 years old, if you're working outside of your home, you still need an option where your baby is safe, happy, healthy, and learning. And we have opportunities as a state to fund many of our licensed childcare spaces, which includes after-school programs. Most of our school districts who run after-school programs think latchkey, they're licensed childcare providers. We have an ability to fund those organizations through the dollars that we just talked about. When it comes to our after school, more extracurricular type opportunities, we are still working on how we can support those. The governor had proposed $120 million to support summer programming this summer and next summer. We've made some modest strides in getting some support for programming this summer, mostly related to academic remediation. And we're still looking towards next summer and how we give kids, hands-on, screen-free opportunities to really be engaged and excited about learning and be safe, right? Whether you talk to a parent of a 12-month-old or a 12-week or a 12-year-old, 12-week-old too, they at the heart want the same thing for their babies. And we're trying to really intentionally connect those school-based after-school programs and our childcare providers and say, you're doing the same type of work. How can we leverage dollars, TA support so that we're coordinated in the support we're providing for families?
Thank you. Does anybody else have, any other commissioners? Anybody have a question? No. Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
coming and being here with us and presenting. And good question, Commissioner Lambert-Bounds. I think it is important. Sometimes, you know, when we think of childcare, we think of just daycare. So it's important to know that it's more than just that. So, okay, next on our agenda. So apparently it has been brought to my attention that I totally forgot to approve the agenda, commissioners. And so we got to backtrack a little bit. So obviously you all have the agenda emailed to you. So I would like to approve. Is there somebody that could move to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Does anybody have any amendments or any changes they want to see on the agenda? No. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Anybody opposed? Okay, so the agenda is approved. Good thing, because we went quite a chunk through it. So I appreciate you humoring me in this. Okay, so next we're moving on to our internal business, and we are going to start with our big boss, Cheryl, the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Big boss, thank you, Chairwoman. Well, we have had a very busy, especially March, but also February, since we last met all of us in January. And I have to say that most of my time, a good chunk of my time, has been spent on administering, getting TriShare pilot off the ground. And thank goodness we have been able to rely on people like Michelle in the governor's office and other partners at the Department of Education and in Laura and in Leo to help us through this and with their expertise on the child care. I'm learning a lot for sure, but it was not my area of expertise. But super excited about the pilot. You know, I think we've mentioned before, and you know, from the Women in the Workforce report that DTMB released at our event in March on Equal Pay Day, March 24th, 136,000 women in Michigan have dropped out of the workforce entirely since February of 2020. The unemployment rate for women in Michigan is 4 times higher than it was pre-pandemic. So our hope is that this pilot is successful, can be expanded, and it's one innovative public-private partnership to address affordable, accessible childcare that removes one ginormous barrier to work for women and men, but you know, women in Michigan. And our hope is that, you know, it's wonderful that our policymakers, our legislature, our business community, as others mentioned when they were talking about TriShare earlier, are paying attention and are spotlighting childcare. And the pandemic has shown a light on the issue, even though it's been a huge issue in the past as well. So it's refreshing, it's exciting, and our hope is that we don't go back to status quo once we're in, people forget that this is an issue that we need to tackle for several reasons. You know, once we're through the pandemic and all of us are vaccinated. So that's been my focus, really a large part of my focus. But the good news is that we are we're partnering with ECIC, which is the Early Childhood Investment Corporation. They're a quasi government agency, kind of like set up like MEDC. they're identifying within ECIC, within their staff, someone who can act as the program manager for the program, and they will, as I have been acting, but they'll actually have subject matter expertise with the child care. So we're very close to identifying that person and bringing them on, and with some of the administrative dollars that we have, and we may be able to also bring on some other assistance for that. So hopefully some of my time will be freed up for other opportunities that we're focusing on. And I just wanted to say that we do our appointments process. We have 5 commissioners whose terms are up in mid-July. So we're just beginning that appointments process and thinking through that. But whatever happens, whomever may roll off the commission, coming up in July, we hope that everyone will stay involved and with the committee's work and the committees that they're involved with, and join us in Brimley in August, because that is our plan right now. If things work out, and again, I'm going to knock on wood because that's what I do. And I know Shannon is going to go in a little more depth about our media and events that we've had, and we'll hear from the committee chairs. One other thing that was exciting that I was just helping as an advisor on the commission, Wayne County Chairwoman Alicia Bell was interested and reached out about setting up a Wayne County Women's Commission. And she brought together some women, and we just acted as advisors, and they announced and voted on and created a women's commission at Wayne County, within Wayne County. They did that mid-March, and they'll have their first meeting in May. So that was really exciting. Hopefully we'll see other counties follow suit. And that's my report.
Hey, Cheryl, are they just sort of doing that on their own? Is there any official connection to the Michigan Women's Commission? How's that relationship?
No official connection, but we will stay connected and hopefully find a lot of ways that we can work together and collaborate. And I just have a vision of women's commissions popping up all over the state, that we can all work together on several things.
Cheryl, how does the goals and mission of that organization align with ours?
It's very similar. So I can't remember their exact mission. I will find it and send it out to everyone afterwards, but it is to survey the women in Wayne County, find out what their priorities are, and make recommendations to the Wayne County Commission on policies that can positively affect women in Wayne County. It's pretty much the same mission that the Michigan Women's Commission has.
It might be worth it for us to consider maybe, I mean, if they're launching in May, maybe in August, or, the beginning of next year, even just to have one of them come in to, just talk to us. And so just, make that connection and see what they're working on.
Yes. And I should also say that Ingham County does have a women's commission, and they have had one for several years as well. So there's 2 counties now in the state who have women's commissions. And so maybe we could invite someone from the Wayne County and Ingham County Commission to join our commission meeting. That's a great idea.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Cheryl?
This is Vivian. It might be good to have, to suggest, obviously, that these commissions, as they're kind of coming up, that we try to have maybe one goal that we work together to see if they're willing to work with us on at least one statewide goal. And I understand a lot of the issues locally may be different, but if we could all work together on at least one common goal, I think would be beneficial to the state.
I think that's a great idea. And hopefully that's how things will, bubble up from the counties and things that we can push at a statewide level. Whatever that may be.
Thanks, Cheryl. I just had one question about the reporting for the pilot program. You said they're reporting every month. Is there at what stage will we be able to see what that report, like compiling, at what stage is it going to be compiled and shareable with us?
We'll have a report every month of the data that they're collecting. So how many employees are involved, how many employees, et cetera, how many children, et cetera, et cetera. So if anyone wants information on a monthly basis, we can certainly share that. We'll have it. But for sure, we'll share it at quarterly for during our commission meetings. But we can certainly share the monthly reports as well.
Okay.
You can just delete the email or read it if you want.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is our Chief Strategy Officer, Boss 2, Shannon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Well, it's been quite a start to 2021 for us at the Commission. So I'm going to share a little bit about what we've done over the last 3 months and then some plans that we have moving forward. So our social media is thriving at this point. We've had a bit of a, mini overhaul to our website. So if you haven't been on there lately, if you want to check it out, we've cleaned things up quite a bit, made some links there to make information easier to find, such as our Tri-Share program, our child care survey report, our 21-day racial equity challenge, that kind of stuff. So we've got the website cleaned up there. If you ever see any edits or want changes to your commissioner pages, please just let me know and we'll make that happen. We also have our YouTube page. Our YouTube channel is fully up and running. We've tracked down some of our past events and made sure they all now live on our YouTube page. Excuse me. So we always try to share our events via Facebook or Facebook Live. But if you ever want to go back and see something, we're trying to put it all there on the YouTube page. And we're also starting to track our growth across the social media platforms. So we're on all of the major ones: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And so we're starting to track our audience growth there as well, and the reach that we're having. So that's social media. And then regular media, we had gangbusters over the last couple of months. So we did a couple of press releases in February. One was Cheryl and I released a statement regarding the Michigan Senate Majority Leader's remarks about Governor Whitmer, and we got some press hits out of that. We also released our childcare use during the pandemic survey, which helped in the conversation around childcare. And then in March, we launched our Tri-Share program, and we had a press release out of that. And thank you to Commissioners Chavez and Atkinson for being a part of those press releases. I know Commissioner Atkinson was quoted in at least one or two of the articles there, so thank you for being available for that. And then later in March, with the release of the Women in the Michigan Workforce Report out of TTMB, we were working with our partners in Leo to get the word out about that, and we got picked up quite a bit there, including Commissioner Lambert Bounds doing a television interview for us. So thank you, Commissioner, for being available and a part of that. So there's lots of press hits. I think we shared those with you at the end of March. We can certainly send you updates. We're trying to track that as we're moving forward. And then also in terms of mainstream media, we had an op-ed published in the Lansing State Journal, authored by Dr. Williams, Commissioner Williams. And that was around the inauguration of Vice President Harris, visible athletic leadership and why representation matters. So that is available out there if you would like to check that out. And then Commissioner Dr. Mandava was the author of a letter with our partners over at the Michigan Asian Pacific Islander Commission for Asian Pacific Islander Women's Equal Pay Day in March. So thank you, Commissioner Mandava, for being a part of that as well. And like I said, there were a lot of press hits, we can share them if you would like to see them. Moving forward, I wanted to update you all that we have applied for 2 AmeriCorps summer vistas to help us out here in the commission over the summer. Those would be full-time paid positions that we would be getting through the VISTA program that the state participates in, so that hopefully we get those approved and we find that out soon. And we will also share the announcements with you in case you have college-age women in your circles who might want to apply for those. And then the rest of the year essentially is going to be around getting the message out about the child care funding, getting the budget passed through the legislature, getting those priorities funded, as well as using the DTMB's Women in the Michigan Workforce Report. We're going to draw out some key highlights from that, do some public education campaigns through social media campaigns, as well as webinars and other types of ways we can get the information out there. We're looking to partner with organizations both within the state and outside of the state in order to be able to draw attention to some of those key points, including the equal pay days that are in there or the pay equity issues. And we will be planning to do at least op-eds, if not events, related to the remaining commemorative equal pay days for this year. So that would be around in August 3rd for Black Women's Equal Pay Day, September 9th for Native Women's Equal Pay Day, and October 21st for Latina Equal Pay Day. So we'll be doing specific targeted messages around those, as well as our larger campaign across all the issues that came up in the DTMB report. And then just a couple other key dates to keep on your radar. Tomorrow is Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day. So if you want to help spread that message out there, I know a lot of us, not me, I don't have children, but a lot of us have been taking our daughters and sons to work every day for the last year. So I know that the national campaign has some passbooks and some or passports or other activity guides that they have available for their virtual event. If you want to spread the word about that. And then obviously we have Mother's Day. What was that?
I'm opting out of this year.
Fair. Maybe it could be send your daughters and sons away from work day. We'll work on that. And then Mother's Day coming up, obviously, in May. We're looking at what we might be able to do around that in terms of messaging, especially as it relates to our childcare messaging and our DTMB report messaging. And then the other big date to look forward to is August 26th, which is Women's Equality Day, and what we may or may not be doing around that.
There's a lot coming up. Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome.
And a lot that we did. I mean, you did send us the media links, and I don't know, should I confess in front of everybody? I was like, there's way too many. Let me just look at one of them. And that was all that I did. Okay, I see a question, Commissioner Lambert-Bounds.
Hi, I know I'm talking a whole lot today, but I just had a thought when Commissioner Manili mentioned that she was opting out of Take Your Daughters and Sons to Work Day. I just had a suggestion that maybe we could have a couple of our commissioner moms do some type of op-ed or article about why this year Take Your Daughters and Sons to Work is so different from previous years because of how everybody's working now. And they can share a little insight around what they're doing differently this year than previous years. Just a thought, not to give you more work.
No, it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thanks. Cheryl?
I was remiss in saying thank you to all of the commissioners for the op-eds and the moderating events and serving on panels, and sometimes the very last minute. Appreciate it. So I meant to say thank you. So I'm saying it now. Thank you.
And on those lines, I know Commissioner Lambert Bounds will be expanding on this a little bit more in the committee report on implicit bias, but we did also do 4 events over February and March. And I know we'll be talking a bit more about the Black History Month event, International Women's Day event, and the Future is Female event. And then we also did a webinar with pediatricians and childcare providers for parents on returning to childcare, returning to using childcare. And thank you to Commissioner Manili for being a part of moderating that conversation.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, does anybody else have any questions for Shannon or Cheryl? Okay, so now we are going to move on to our committee reports. Usually we have these meetings before the public meeting, but now that we're virtual, we're doing these meetings, separate days, previous to this public meeting. So let us start with our first report, which is Unlocking Opportunities Committee, and that is Commissioner Saunders.
Well, our first pillar of unlocking opportunities is childcare. So as you can see, had a lot going on. I'm not going to reiterate. Our speakers today did such a great job telling the story of what this committee has been involved in since our last commission meeting. My previous career, I spent a decade in state government. And so I just want to give a nod specifically to Cheryl and Shannon for all the work that they've been doing surrounding the tri-share model, implementing it, keeping us engaged with the governor's office and making us a key player in messaging and how to move the needle forward with advocacy groups. And then also just thank you to the commission as a whole for when we've reached out to you to share survey links and connect us to the right people. You've stepped up to help us do that. So in all my time in government, I've never seen a more synchronized effort to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and it's a Herculean effort. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody involved, because this is a big deal. Childcare is at the forefront of everything, and people are listening and they're taking action. So the fact that the legislature is engaged, that the governor's office is also on the same page, and we've been able to start this tri-share pilot program, which is the first in the nation. Nobody else is doing this. And so it's just such a testament to how Michigan is ahead of the game in making sure that we're advocating and putting into place this childcare programs and efforts. And so I just want to say on behalf of the committee, it's astounding. And so we're really proud of the work that we've been able to be engaged in. I'm just going to fill in 3 things because you've heard enough from everybody else, but we did recently, Chairwoman John D. and myself, send a letter to the female legislators in the House and the Senate to ask them to release the funds for the $370 million that Michelle talked about earlier from the governor's team. We will share that letter with you. Shannon will send that out. If you are have personal relationships with any of the legislators, female or not, or people that work in the legislature as staff, we would really be thankful if you would reach out to those folks so that we can advocate for those funds to be released and get into the hands of families that need the money. So we are working on that. Within the letter, we are going to offer a time for either representatives and senators or their staff to come together and have a Q&A session with us as a committee, but also invite you as a commission to participate, to ask questions about that $370 million and how it will be allocated. The governor's team will also participate in that conversation. It will be in mid-May, so we will get those details to you and would love for you to participate on that level if you're able. We also see this as a way to support the Visible Authentic Leadership Committee, because we know it's a priority of yours to start a bipartisan caucus within the legislature. And so just know that that is starting to happen. However we can support you moving forward in that endeavor, we would love to do so. Moving on to the next item, we are going to continue to work on strengthening our resource navigators within state departments. Shannon's going to start to work on that. We have many that are already in place, but we have kind of a messaging problem with families not knowing what they're even eligible for to access those services. So we will be working on that front as well. I'm sorry, my chat keeps on dinging, and so I get distracted. And then thirdly, we're going to keep our ear to the ground on the momentum that we're seeing. The other two pillars of the Unlocking Opportunities Subcommittee is paid parental leave and caregiving, either leave or anything surrounding caregiving. There's definitely some momentum surrounding those two pieces. And so we're looking for ways to partner with other organizations, whether it's at the federal or the state level, and how we can amplify that message and be plugged in so that we are being successful like we are with childcare. So that is my report on behalf of the committee. I'd welcome Commissioners Atkinson or Rice to jump in if they have anything to add, but just want to say a giant thank you to the staff and the commission for all the work that's being done. I don't think that we ever imagined out of the survey that there were all these things that would come along with it. But we are grateful, and honestly, it's kind of emotional to see it all come to fruition. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Saunders. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, anything to add?
Well, one, apologize for my private message going to everyone. I'm available at 4, but you know, Commissioner Saunders, thank you so much for your leadership and you know, an appreciation for the recognition that, you know, women caregivers do not live single issue lives. So these things are so interdependent, and it's important for us to acknowledge that. So thank you.
You shouldn't apologize for the Zoom chat, because we all learned earlier today that I also did not use the Zoom chat correctly. So I'm in good company.
By the way, I'm so happy we are now Zoom out of that. I don't know what else we were, what was that? Microsoft something or other that we started with. So
Teams.
Thank you for, I don't know what it was, but thank you for the shift, Cheryl. Okay, so now we will move on to our second report, our Committee of Visible Authentic Leadership. And that will be Commissioner Williams and Mandava.
Hi. As you know, the Visible Authentic Leadership Committee, VAL, has 2 main objectives, and that is represented in 2 subcommittees, which we just changed. We decided that we would meet as a committee of the whole, which makes a lot more sense. So electing women and women in leadership, our 2 former subcommittees, are now objectives of our total committee. And you know, VAL is about everything getting women more authentically visible at the local and state level, on boards, on commissions, appointed, elected, in the C-suite, nonprofits, everywhere. So what I'd like to do, I no longer have to do a combined subcommittee and chair report, which is great, but I'd like to first call on Commissioner Mandava to give the subcommittee report on women in leadership, and then I'll return and give the rest of the committee report, including electing women.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams and Madam Chair. It's nice to see everybody on Zoom. So I'm just going to give you an update about a couple of the initiatives that our committee has been working on since the last public meeting. So one is the bill and resolution that we wanted to introduce into the legislature regarding increasing the number of women on basically all of the things that Commissioner Williams mentioned, the nonprofit boards, commissions, county commissions, state commissions, things like that. So Representative Kupa introduced the bill and the resolution since our last meeting. And we are now, as a committee, working on a strategy to gain bipartisan, bicameral, and business support for both the bill and the resolution. So I really welcome Commissioner Saunders letting us know that they are interested in, that committee is also interested in working with this committee because it really is something that should be important to every woman and not really should be a political issue. The second thing that we are working on, in our last meeting, we had mentioned that Cheryl actually had discussed with her counterpart in Iowa, and Iowa as a state has done this great job of creating a database for appointments that are available so that, across the state, everyone, including women, will know what is out there, because oftentimes, as we know, all of these appointments, people are not even aware that there are openings that they could be filling. So with that, the Michigan Community Service Commission is currently creating a database similar to that database for nonprofit board appointments. And so Cheryl and Shannon are working with them to talk about adding county and municipal boards and commission appointments to that database. And then recently, myself, Cheryl, and Geeta Dagger were on a panel with the Women Officials Network and talked to them. They're interested in partnering with the commission to for this same initiative to increase the number of women on all of these boards. And so they are interested in finding funding and staffing for the marketing of this database to women. That's still kind of in the early nascent stages, but we're really excited about moving forward with that. And that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Additionally, you know that we are working with Michigan State University to create a database of locally elected women in Michigan, and we're very excited about that. Michigan State started work in January. We anticipate preliminary data back in May. And our goal is to use this data to, of course, create a report on how many women are in local elected positions, but probably more importantly, to communicate with these women on various opportunities to run for higher office and have a major outreach effort to women generally about how they can participate, be elected to, and increase our numbers, not only in terms of elected positions, but also appointed positions to local boards and commissions. So we're very excited about getting that. I also would like to update you on the bipartisan advisory group of women legislators and ask Meg, would you update us on that progress?
I will. Thank you for the opportunity. As you know, that we have been working on finding representatives who'd be interested in helping us form a bipartisan advisory council that would be able to, across all of our initiatives, learn about what we're doing, connect us to what's happening in the legislature, and be just a collaborative body to help us move forward our agenda and the things that we're working on behalf of the women in Michigan. I was able to, along with Cheryl and Megan Blue, meet with Representative Bolden and Lazinski, and they're very enthusiastic about the idea. And they were putting their heads together to think about a couple other representatives they could invite who they thought would be able to come alongside them to make this a bipartisan group. And they've recently gotten back to me with a couple of names. And so our next step will be to meet with those same representatives, invite a few more, and get this moving forward. One of the things we learned during that meeting is that there is already a group that is working on a bipartisan in a bipartisan manner to work on some legislation. So there's a way we think we can tap into that group. And so it affirmed that this is the right way to go. And this is definitely going to be a benefit to us as a commission. And I think also to the women legislators who are working very hard to get certain things passed that are right in line with the work that we're doing on behalf of the women in Michigan. So that is my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meg. Two other items we wanted to update you on. One is just a reminder about how great the reception was in January that we had. Many of you were there, and you know it's traditionally been something for the Michigan Women's Commission to do every January to welcome new legislators. And of course, we did that Zoomed, and it was a great reception and very well attended. And we want to, we really did have a great opportunity to help inform people working in government about the work of the Michigan Women's Commission, and put out there our interest, of course, at all times to partner on any projects or policies that empower women in Michigan. And then finally, we recently were invited to and attended the meeting of the business leaders group of the Black, which is the Black Leadership Advisory Commission. I believe I have that correct, or somewhere close, appointed by the governor. And they wanted to talk with us and inform Michigan about the work that we're doing, because they were interested in potential collaboration. I thought Dr. Sabala and I attended it, and I thought it was excellent, if nothing else but to hear the work that really is going on, and really to emphasize the need to really collaborate and continue to work together. I think, as Commissioner Picard mentioned, I think we should keep that in the forefront. But Inform was there and talked about their study, which showed very little improvement for women on boards and no improvement for women of color. And so we found that, very, very important information. And, this is a report published by Inform Michigan. They do it every 2 years. And they really are interested in partnering with us on this issue, which we think is very important. And, the news about it wasn't real new news, but when you see the stats and the figures about the lack of diversity really on boards, particularly in terms of women of color, we really wanted to focus on that. So we're going to get back together with this group and have already talked about ways to do that. They're very interested in the legislation that was introduced by Sabala in her work, Commissioner Mandava in her work on HB 4597. And so we'll be meeting together in the next couple of weeks to continue that dialogue. I would like to thank all of our committee members, many of whom are on the call now. And of course, always thanks to Cheryl and Shannon for their help. And so, Madam Chair, that concludes our report, and we're available to answer questions if there are.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Does anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. So moving on to the next committee, that is the report on financial freedom, and that is Commissioner Manili.
Actually, Madam Chair, I'm going to be reporting out. Thank you. So our focus on financial freedom over the last few months has been on women in the Michigan workforce report and how we can leverage that report to guide our work. We've also been focused on the business community survey, the Michigan pay equity bill package, and the wraparound services for frontliners. So I wanted to just start by sharing a potential partnership between the entrepreneurship and innovation of MEDC. We had two special guests with us at our last meeting, Latasha Peebles, who is a grant manager, and Maggie McCammon, who is a portfolio manager. And they participated in our meeting because they wanted to look for some opportunities to collaborate on future projects. And so that was very beneficial to us. So let me start with the Women in the Workforce report. So as we've already mentioned, a staggering number of women, 136,000, have left the Michigan workplace since the start of the pandemic. And that report emphasizes the important work of the Michigan Women's Commission, as well as the importance of economic security for women in our state. And Cheryl and Shannon have been working with the governor's office to implement a public education strategy around that report. And they are going to be asking for commissioners' help, both in terms of writing op-eds and engaging in some town halls. This will happen over the course of the next few months, hopefully by midsummer. And this is really, moving into a new focus, because up until now, as Cheryl had said, and rightfully so, the primary focus has been on affordable and accessible childcare through the launch of the Tri-Share childcare program. So we also discussed whether we could look at continued remote work as a means to support women in the workforce. And the governor has put together a return to work group to advise on when and how we might all return back to offices and work. As you likely know, there is a 6-month extension on remote work if it can be performed remotely. And we noted that she is receiving some concerns on this topic from business. But we know, as we've talked about throughout a lot of our meeting today, that one of the biggest barriers to returning to work includes childcare, which is why our commission is so focused on that work. We also had some open discussion as a committee about potential policies that would serve to bring women back to the workforce who have since exited the workforce. So with regard to the business community survey, we noted that there is a need to identify an outside organization to fund the survey, and we looked at some potential sources for that. We also have a belief as a committee that businesses are not as apt to answer a survey from government branches, and so we brainstormed on who might be a potential partner that could design and execute the survey with us. So we're at this point looking at colleges and universities might be able to potentially partner with us. And we're exploring some opportunities on that front. So some of the topics that we want to address in the survey are pay gap for women and minorities, pay gap solutions, paid leave, flexible schedules, childcare stipend, and other family-friendly policies as we move into a post-pandemic world. Some examples of those additional policies might be do companies have retirement plans, a 401k plan, health insurance, and if so, what might be covered, and does that include dental and eye insurance as well? We are looking to have a mix of various size businesses from various locations across the state, and we are hoping to design a survey in the 5 to 10 minute range to encourage participation. On the topic of Michigan pay equity bill package. We did discuss the package, and we have noted that unfortunately this package of bills has been introduced yearly since 2015 and has not made a lot of progress. And so we discussed that the Michigan Women's Commission could potentially do something about these proposals through other means. And so I'm not sure exactly what that looks like yet, but we wanted to begin to put this on our radar screen. With regard to the pilot program for wraparound services for futures of frontliners, we do have money in the budget for this program. So $5 million for the pilot, and that would encompass 400 single parents who are futures for frontliner students and would be eligible for these services. We did try to understand what the community colleges currently offer. And we went to the Community College Association about that. Unfortunately, they had no information. And so they actually asked us to get involved and do some research or potentially survey community colleges with a few questions. So we do plan to run our questions by our list of questions by the Community College Association, and would potentially ask for Community College Association to help us distribute this survey. So just again, some high level thinking around what this survey would entail. It would be, is there a subsidy for childcare? Is that our college is offering that? What's the wait time to receive that subsidized childcare? Do you offer transportation, bus passes, any other type of subsidy for transportation? In the space of technology, are they offering laptops or Wi-Fi or computer loan programs, books, even basic services like food? And then also, what are the parameters for receiving these services? Do you have to be enrolled, just have to be enrolled as a student? Do you have to maintain a certain grade point, et cetera? So we're in the midst of that work right now. And we actually, as a committee, walked away with specific tasks to help move the needle on these priorities. And we will continue that work. And our next meeting is scheduled for the third week in June. Does anyone from our committee have anything to add to my report today? Okay. Thank you then. That concludes my report for today, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hendrian. Does anybody have any questions for the Financial Freedom Committee? No? Okay, moving on. Next is the report on the committee on Implicit Bias Awareness, and that will be Commissioner Bounds and Commissioner Dare.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to kick off our committee report, and Commissioner Dare, I'm going to punt to her and she'll bring us home. I want to start by just thanking you all for using that implicit bias lens through all of your programs that you're running and all of your initiatives. It's important that we remember that we do have this committee, and our goal is to just make sure that, one, that there's representation from all of the subcommittees, but really that representation is helping to maintain that lens so that we're not forgetting about certain segments of our communities who might be forgotten, or that we may be doing something in a way that alienates or forgets about those communities. But I'm very, very happy to hear it sounds like everybody's really using that lens. So thank you for doing that. This month, I'm going to just share with you a bit about the work that we've been doing. And it's lots of events, lots of activities. Shannon alluded to some of them. I'm going to give you some highlights, particularly about the work done between February and March. As you know, February was Black History Month. So we kicked off that month with an event called Black History Month is what we called it. And Representation Matters was the theme. And we did an event partnered with the Michigan Women Forward. That event was featured and was hosted by our own Commissioner Faye Nelson. It included Dr. Jonae Caldoon, Carla Walker-Miller, Alexis Dishman, and Dr. Rashida Harrison. And the focus for that event was really to have a cross-sector conversation around why intersectionality representation mattered, both personally and professionally. And that event was phenomenal. It was well attended. That sort of rounded out Black History Month, and then we kicked off Women's History Month. And gosh, I think we had about 7 or 8 events back to back for Women's History Month. And I'll just give you a couple highlights of some of the things that took place that month. We did have a proclamation from the governor around for Women's History Month. We also had the commission drafted an email message for our Leo acting director to send out to the Leo employees about the governor's proclamation related to pay equity and equity and inclusion for the month of March. That was the kickoff. We talked a little bit about Commissioner Williams' op-ed, which was phenomenally written. I hope you all had a chance to read it and give her a big thumbs up for that work because visible, authentic leadership is so important. We've seen that with our current vice president, but also the fact that women of color matter in that theme and in that discussion around visible, authentic leadership. So thank you again, Dr. Williams, for your work there. I also want to just mention that, and I think Shannon mentioned this earlier, but we had Commissioner Mandava work on a piece for the Detroit News around Asian American and Pacific Islander Women's Equity Payday. Another extremely well-written article, a letter, and we want to thank Commissioner Mandava for her work there. It was pretty amazing. She partnered in that letter with the Michigan Asian Pacific American Affairs Commissioner Aisha Gazer. I think I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. I hope I am. And again, there was another proclamation from Governor Whitmer around Asian American Pacific Islander women's equal pay day work. We went on, there's more. And I'm not even giving you everything, just some highlights. We had a big equal pay day event on the 24th of March. The session was called The Future is Female, which excited me. And the topic was From She Session to She Surge. That was the title of the event. We had Governor Whitmer participate in that, as well as a representative from the Biden-Harris administration. So we were excited to have someone from the White House join us. We also had a report out by Ruth, and I don't know why I'm blanking on her last name, talking about the women's workforce report, and all the data and research that was done around that report was shared with us, and some of the really unbelievable numbers about how women have left the workforce in Michigan and across the country. So hard to believe, but again, all the work we're doing is a great way to help women segue back into the workforce, but also support them once they return. The last item I'll mention is we always talk about the 21-day equity challenge. I don't want to forget to talk about that. While we did put the challenge on hold for Q2 because we had so many activities we're working on, and not enough arms and legs to keep everything rolling. We did not have challenges we don't expect to have challenges during Q2, but Shannon and I have both been talking with organizations and individuals about the work around that 21-day challenge. I met with a group called the Zonta Club of Pontiac to tell them about the challenge, how it works, and really just give them some insight and perspective on how they might even do it themselves with a moderator. That group has been around for over 100 years, and it's a cross section of women primarily from Southeast Michigan, but of various ages, various backgrounds, various experiences. And it was really wonderful talking to them because they had wonderful questions. And many of them had heard about, someone in the group had heard about the challenge and reached out to us to ask us to talk with their group about it. So it was great. That was the end of March. And I think that kind of wraps up my I tried to talk really fast reporting of what's happening on one end of the Committee on Implicit Bias Awareness. Meg, I'm going to turn over to you to bring us on home.
Thank you so much. Well, I am here to say that Commissioner Lambert Bounds and I are terming off the Michigan Women's Commission. And I can't say that without saying that being on this commission has really been one of the highlights of my career. I mean, it has been an incredible, incredible experience. I've had the privilege of serving the last 7 years and have had an opportunity to work on several initiatives, but this final initiative around implicit bias awareness has really been important to me personally, and to be able to co-chair with my dear friend Deidre, who I've gotten to know through the commission, has just been extremely important. So just grateful to have had the opportunity. And so saying that, we are transitioning the co-chairship of this committee to Commissioner Mandava and Commissioner Meneely. They have volunteered to co-chair this committee in the future. And we had established originally 5 goals with this committee to get it up and running, while all the while understanding that it would be functioning as an oversight committee. We feel like this last year we've been able to accomplish, we're almost to the end of accomplishing all of those goals. And so starting in August, this committee will really begin functioning truly as an oversight committee. So we'll move to about 4 meetings a year, just mainly check-in meetings. Again, to just use this as this lens that we are making sure that all of our initiatives and decisions and policy recommendations are being made through an implicit bias awareness lens. Also want to mention to this commission that we have openings on the committee and would love to have some of you step up and take our place. We'll clearly also have some new commissioners coming on in July who will be joining you in August, and some of them may be interested in serving on the committee. But I do think this is a committee that it's important to have some kind of history. And so I believe having some of you step in onto this committee, it's not a huge time commitment, would be very important to just have some commissioners who've been around for a little while step into this role and really guide the commission for the future. So if you're interested in joining the committee, please reach out to either Commissioner Mandava or Commissioner Meneely, let them know of your interest. And that's all I have to say. I'm very sad this is my last full commission meeting, and I just wanted to wrap that up and let you know that's where this committee stands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler. Yeah, there's several of my fellow commissioners who will be terming out. So, obviously for those of you who won't be coming back, really appreciate what you've done, and thank you for your service on this commission. It's important work, and 7 years, you've been around a long time on the commission. So it'll be a loss to our commission, but we look forward to still having you on the committees and continuing with the work even without you being a member of the committee. So I wanted to open the floor. Does anybody have questions to the Implicit Bias Committee? Nope. Okay, so
Madam Chair?
go ahead,
I couldn't,
Commissioner Williams.
yes, I couldn't get to that hand raising thing quick enough. I probably was not, I heard you, Madam Chair, earlier talk about transition. I did not realize that, that would be happening, and some of our fellow commissioners, this would be a last meeting. And so thank you for that clarification. And I don't know who all the others are. Certainly I've gotten to know Meg and just really have, appreciated that. I particularly wanted to express appreciation to Deidre, Commissioner Lambert Bounds, and particularly with the implicit bias work. Because frankly, when I came on the commission, that was the first initiative that really struck me, that I knew about, and her enthusiasm about it and conversation about it, I just think was extraordinary. I also believe it's one of those initiatives whose time is come, whose time is here. And I think the commission itself, I don't know what we can do, but I just really think it's a signature program. Let me just do it that way. I think it's a signature initiative, a signature program whose time is come. And I just wanted to express that, put that on the record, say that, and really express thanks to all of the commissioners who are leaving, but particularly to my sister, Deidre. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. So next on the agenda, first of all, that was, I just want to say that was a really busy quarter for us. We seemed to really get a lot done, which was fantastic. Next on the agenda is old business. There's none. So then it is the approval of the minutes for the January 26th meeting. My fellow commissioners, you should have received the minutes by email. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I will motion to approve the minutes from our January 26th meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Lambert Bounds. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And then does anybody have any comments or about the minutes? No? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great. Does anybody oppose? Okay, so passed. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 17th in Brimley. This is last year we were scheduled in Brimley. Where's Cheryl to knock on the wood for us again? So, hopefully that will happen in person. Next, then we have the ex officio and liaison reports. I don't see who that would be. So Shannon and Cheryl.
Yeah, we have Courtney Pendleton from Lara. You should be allowed now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. It is always a pleasure to be here. Just to be cognizant of everyone's time, I'm going to speak very quickly on the few updates that we have to share with all of you. This is Courtney Pendleton, Deputy Director at Lara. Let me start with that. So Lara is very excited to be partnering with and continuing to work with the Michigan Women's Commission. So all of you, along with the governor, Michelle Richard, who we heard from earlier, and our sister departments and agencies and all of our other partners on all of the childcare initiatives that we have going on across the state. In Lara, we have a newly created childcare licensing bureau. So previously, the childcare licensing was housed in our Bureau of Community and Health Services, but with this new change, making it its own bureau, it better aligns to the work that's being done with the governor's priorities surrounding all things childcare. So we're very excited to have this new bureau. across the department as a whole. We are starting to look at how our work looks post-pandemic while we continue to maintain our very high levels of customer service surrounding all of our licensing and regulatory work while we continue to be in the midst of COVID-19. And last month, in celebration of Women's History Month, our director, Orleen Hawks, sent out a message to all 1,600 of our staff members, recognizing the women in leadership roles across the department. So that was really nice to see. And then finally, for my last update, as many of you are probably aware, last July, Governor Whitmer issued Executive Directive 2020-7, tasking Lara with promulgating rules establishing implicit bias training for all healthcare licensees, except for veterinarians. And we are happy to report that after an incredible amount of work and engagement from our licensees and stakeholders, draft rules surrounding implicit bias training have been submitted to the legislature for consideration by the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, JCAR. For anyone who's not familiar with the rules promulgation process, JCAR now has 15 session days to review the proposed rules. They could hold a committee hearing and take action that could include objecting to the rules, recommending changes, or introducing legislation that could supersede the rules. So right now, we anticipate that the legislative review period will conclude on May 19th of this year. So if you are interested, please feel free to show your support for these rules by contacting any of the JCAR members. And that concludes my updates. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Courtney. Do we have any other?
I do not see any other liaison or ex officios raising their hands anyway.
Okay, great. So then now it is the public comment. I don't see any hands up for public comment either.
And we did not receive any public comment ahead of time.
Okay. So then it looks like we are at the end of our meeting, and perfect timing, 3:01. So thank you, ladies. The meeting is now adjourned, and hopefully we will be meeting again in Brimley in August.
Thanks, everyone.
You.
Bye.
Buddy.
Bye.